It is the Vegas Take. It is hour number 2. Glad you could join us, Sharp and Shapiro. Also joining us in studio is attorney Michael Avenatti. And if you'd like to watch the live stream, we are broadcasting live not only on the airwaves on KDWN, but also on YouTube, our Vegas Take page. Check that out as well. So Michael has developed a lot of relationships with quote-unquote celebrities over the years, right? And one of these celebrities that we have on the line right now, I'm actually a big fan of his. Extremely funny guy. He's done so many great movies. He's one of my favorite guys from the big screen. It is none other than Tom Arnold. Tom, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
Doing good, doing good. So, Tom, your buddy Michael Avenatti is here in studio. I want you guys to talk a little bit about the debate last night and, of course, the impeachment inquiry. But let's start with that. Have you been watching any of these impeachment inquiry hearings on television, and what do you make of it?
Well, Dr. Fiona Hill is amazing. She's, today's been really interesting. She has more courage, obviously, than the entire Republican Party. She's laid out a very, it's a little frightening, what's going on because, what's happened is, Russia's case and what Putin has wanted, which was this nonsense about Ukraine. That's exactly what he tried to sell in 2016, and now Trump and these guys are pushing that they're the actual bad guys and not Russia, which has been proven time and time again, and they're that conspiracy again, and she's laid it out because that's where she works, and she's calmly laid it out, and then they're pushing back. Well, what about Hunter Biden and this nonsense? And it's so sad that it's a sad thing that we have this impeachment stuff. It's really sad for our country. It's sad that we have to do it. It's sad to see these congressmen and women up there making fools of themselves. And then to have these amazing people up here testifying that have worked their whole lives in foreign service and diplomacy and things. It's sad for our country. It's embarrassing, but got to do it, I guess.
So Tom, this is Michael. You know what I think? I think that if they're going to call Hunter Biden to testify, we ought to have Jerry Falwell Jr. testify. What do you think about that?
Well, Jerry Falwell Jr. had to go into court last week and settle up with pool boy. He wants to be called pool attendant, number 1 down in Miami, because I started tweeting about the new tape that's out there and confirming everything. But when Michael Cohen went to prison, he tried to convince me, oh, no, Tom, it's just Becky Falwell and the one guy. And since he's gone to prison, I've got new confirmation. Oh, no, Jerry and Mr. Grande, pool attendant, not pool boy. No, and so then he immediately went in, and so there's been new light shed. And by the way, these guys are heroes, the pool attendants, because they started this whole thing by coming forward about these, because Jerry Falwell also has fixers, a guy named Woody, who comes down there and starts threatening these young men and saying, you better shut up about these relationships that Jerry has with Giancarlo Grande and Becky has with the other fellow, Jesus Hernandez, or Martinez, that had to change his name, or else you're going to be in trouble. The one kid's a lawyer now in Miami, and so I said, boy, people shouldn't threaten you guys. And I said, how can I be of service to you guys? And by the way, that's what Michael Cohen getting involved to help Trump and help the election. Mm-hmm. That really kind of changed things in 2016 because Jerry Falwell Jr. was supporting Ted Cruz, and all of a sudden Michael Cohen went up to him in Iowa at the Iowa caucus, it was called at the time, and said, I still have the picture from when I helped you with the pool boy situation, the naked pictures. And boy, it'd be great if you supported Donald Trump. I kept one, by the way, and Jerry Falwell Jr. was like, oh my God, I'm going to support Donald Trump because he's the most like Jesus. And so that really turned the tide, because then the evangelicals, they're amazing, the evangelicals, especially the buddy ones. What's it called? The buddy gospel or whatever they call themselves. But they all said, well, Jerry Falwell Jr. supported Donald Trump. It must be okay because he's the most like Jesus, and that's kind of how he got elected. So,
Tom, you've always been open about your, and if you're just joining us, by the way, speaking of the actor comedian Tom Arnold, you've always been open and honest about your life, abuse horrible things that have happened in your life, and how you've persevered and pushed forward. So I want to ask you a little bit about Jim Jordan. I am not a Jim Jordan fan. I don't think anybody in this room is. So what do you make of this whole thing where, he's the assistant coach, right, of the wrestling team,
right,
and you have dozens and dozens and dozens of kids that apparently were being sexually molested. Several of those kids say that they did go into Jim Jordan's office and told him about it, and Jordan allegedly did nothing about it. As someone like yourself who sadly has been abused yourself, what do you make of this story?
Well, first of all, I believe them. Just like with Jerry Sandusky, and with things that happened up there where other coaches knew about it. Jim Jordan, there's been 10 kids that told their coach. And by the way, you know how these programs go, and you know the coaches share, and he's an assistant coach at Ohio State, and there's been a lot of nonsense in wrestling programs around the country. Dennis Haspert was the Speaker of the House of Representatives. He happened to be a Republican. It can happen in any party, but he's in prison now. And he was a wrestling coach. One of his wrestlers committed suicide because he was raped by Dennis Haspert. And so there's a history of people in gymnastics programs, in wrestling programs that get away with this, that literally turned a blind eye. And that's what Jim Jordan did. Now, he didn't even acknowledge, he hasn't even acknowledged these. He said they're all lying. And that's a problem, because that doctor has, it's confirmed all of this stuff that he has did. And by the way, these guys don't get away with it unless either parents or other coaches. And for this guy to have sexually assaulted, hundreds of athletes.
Face to face with Jim Jordan, what would you say to him right now?
Oh, I'd say you are a coward. You are a liar. You are. I mean, I get in his little face. You're no Dan Gable. Number one.
Yeah.
But he is. It is so the hypocrisy to defend a man, Donald Trump, that has 27 legitimate accusations of sexual assault. And to say this guy, no matter what anybody says about this guy, I'm standing up for him. But then to have these kids, and they are kids. They're in college, but they're kids, and they're in his care. And parents sent them to Ohio State University, and they're vulnerable, and they look up to their doctor, and they look up to their coaches. And my kid, if I sent him there, and this happened to my son, if I was the parents of these kids, I would hunt his little ass down, and I said, you're accountable. And I want to know, when I put my kids in your care, literally in the locker room, they're vulnerable. That's my baby. You better you better take care of that. You better have answers at least.
It is despicable that Trump and the Republicans have put Jim Jordan on point as it relates to defending the president and questioning these witnesses. They have made him, Jim Jordan, really the focal point, if you will, of their defense in light of these accusations that he enabled the molestation of boys. The fact that they know that and that they don't care about it, and yet they would put him on point, is despicable and inexcusable in my view.
And also, you have to understand, they should have had hearings in Congress, right? Live hearings that had, to understand the trauma that does. And I've always been open about being raped as a child and as an adult. When I got sober, I went back and found the pedophile and confronted him, and then 30 other boys came forward, and just what that does to you, and the trauma, and then when my kid was born, and then when he got my age, when he turned 4, and then realizing, oh my God, I was that. I look like that, and then having to deal with that and work on myself, and again, and that trauma that's in you, and same with girls, and these girls that were victims of, and I don't care if you're 13, 14, 15. It's trauma. The Epstein victims, and the coercion, and the trauma that it sticks with you. It's not a one-time thing. It's burned in your brain. And when I started working on the trauma, I could smell the laundry in the backyard of the pedophile's house. Okay, when we went back and started remembering the room he took it to, it is burned in your brain. It's burned in those athletes' brain, that trauma from that moment. And they should have had hearings in Congress so America could have learned about the trauma.
Sure.
But they couldn't even do that with Epstein because Trump was a buddy of Epstein.
So, Tom,
I'm not saying he did it with him, but I'm saying he was a buddy of his.
Of course.
It's embarrassing when the president is a pal. So we can't even cover stuff because of, the accusation on our president. And then you got Jim Jordan that's involved with this.
But Tom, look, I mean, we got to call it like it is, right? Epstein had a lot of friends in powerful places on both sides of the aisle. I mean, yes, Trump was a pal, but at one point Bill Clinton was a pal.
Absolutely.
I mean, there was a lot of, if we're going to be credible, if we're going to be credible. Just let me finish. I know if we're going to absolutely,
but right now, let's deal with. I don't care. Let's take them all down.
Yeah.
Screw them all. But this is an important moment because we're learning so much about the victims and the trauma, and people are speaking out. And that's one of the great things about the Me Too movement is it's giving voice to victims, and we're understanding how this works.
Right.
And get these people in there. And
Tom,
look at the Michigan state gymnastics program, the U.S. gymnastics program. Those women, those tiny women, stood up there and said, "Screw you. We're taking this back. We are powerful." That's an amazing thing.
I think what Tom is trying to say is he's not pledging his support. Tom, I don't think he'll be voting in Jim Jordan. Is that what you're trying to say?
No.
Look. When it comes to victimizing kids, I could care less whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, whether you're famous, whether you're not famous, a celebrity or not. If you victimize a kid, a boy or a girl, you should be appropriately outed and punished. I don't care what party you come from, period.
So let me ask you this, Tom. Being a Hollywood guy, I mean, I would imagine guys that have guys like Kevin Spacey, for example, who have been ousted from Hollywood, Harvey Weinstein. I mean, these are guys that I would imagine you've not only met, but maybe even had friends. I don't know if you've ever been friends with any of these guys.
I got into a fight with Harvey Weinstein once, but he was I can't say. Can I say asshole?
Yes, I think that's.
I mean, he was the guy that tried to bully people too. Kevin Spacey, I liked him. I thought he was, he was a very talented actor. He was odd, but he's very talented. But he preyed on young guys. He preyed on them, and when you look back, you're like, oh yeah, he was. I was in Germany at the Deauville Film Festival. The night before, I was sitting around with Jay Roach, and the Game Change had just come out, and my friend wrote it, the movie about the 2008, and Jay Roach directed it. We're sitting around because I had a movie, Gardens of the Night, ironically, about this pedophile, these street kids, and it won some awards. And we were sitting around there, and the night before, Spacey had a picture of himself at the bar with his finger up a guy's butt. I'm like, what the? Nobody would say anything. I go, what the F is wrong with Spacey?
Jeez.
Like, people didn't want to say anything. And then everybody started laughing. They're like,
God, I haven't even had lunch yet.
Said something. Like, it's just like, what is his deal? Like,
all right, Tom, let's get into some funny subjects now because I don't want to have to take antidepressants after the show.
No.
Is Tom Cruise?
You just got to call it like.
Is Tom Cruise straight? Yes or no? Is Tom? Does Tom Cruise like women? Yes or no?
Oh yeah, he likes women.
He does.
He likes
okay,
women.
fair.
He loves women.
I want the funny Tom Arnold. I'm getting depressed now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he loves. I mean, I don't know what the level that people are. I'll tell you this. I played cards with Mimi Rogers last Wednesday.
She's a good player.
She sat next to me, and she's amazingly attractive, and I love her. I'll tell you what, she's got it going on. You can see I tweeted a picture because Kelly Hu had a straight flush, and when you get a straight flush at that card game, Dorby Walters' Wednesday night card game, and it's all.
What is a conversation like between Tom Arnold and Mimi Rogers at the poker table?
Man, I'll tell you what, Ed Asner won so much money, and he turned 90. We had his birthday cake there, and she turned to me and goes, and she was kind of serious, like she's like, should we roll them afterwards? I was like, yes, I love you so much. Like, she's funny. Like, everybody that games, it's all like famous TV dads, like Dan Lauria from the Wonder Years is a really good player, and Robert Wool was playing, and there's a whole bunch of everybody's like famous, and I looked at her eyes like, yes, she might do that with me. I love Ed Hester, but he had a lot of money, and he wasn't quite sure how to get home. And I was like, yeah, she might actually, just for a second, I like that in a woman.
So were you able to convince him, you and Mimi, that he'd only won $10?
No. He had I'll tell you what, he is a great poker player.
What is the most money you've ever lost in one night, Tom, gambling?
I don't play. I'm not a gambler, but that game, I like playing when I come to Vegas, I love to play the slots because I'm a little on the spectrum, and so I just love putting money in it.
Well, when Tom Arnold comes to Las Vegas, a single Tom Arnold on a Saturday night, besides playing slot machines, what does a Tom Arnold do on the Strip?
Man, I like to go to shows. I like to
That's boring.
Because my kids are 6 and almost 4. They love the lights. They love, believe it or not, we love Vegas. We've driven up there. We love it. We like the drive. My kids, it's a fantastic, it's like the most exciting place in the world I know it seems insane, but we like to drive there. We like looking. We like everything about Vegas. And it doesn't seem like it'd be a good kid thing, but we just think it's the most fantastic. First of all, my kids think, all the stuff like it's a New York City and France, all the they think that's what it is. So they're buying into everything about. They think Vegas is like the mood, like the best place in the world.
Tom, we have a question for you that just came in. It might be inappropriate, but I'll ask it anyway. They want to know: did you ever see Jamie Lee Curtis naked on the set of True Lies?
Yes,
you did.
I did.
What was that like? What was that site like?
Well, it was well. First of all, Trading Places. John Landis directed Trading Places and The Stupids, and he directed Animal House. But she was topless there. But yes, I did. She's a free spirit. And what was it like? It was freaking amazing. And by the way, I don't think I was the only one. No, I wasn't the only one. The crew loves her. All you have to do is make a joke like, well, I like, and then she does it. Like, she's like right, she.
When do you think
look,
no fool.
All I'm going to say is, 10 minutes ago we were talking about digital stimulation of the anus, and now we're Jamie Lee Curtis naked. So at least we're upgrading, although it's a very slow climb.
Be honest, Tom. When do you think was the last time Melania Trump had sex with Donald Trump?
Oh, Jesus. I can't even imagine.
She likes that. She likes the security guy that looks a little like me from Tiffany's.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think they've had sex in years. I don't know that he has.
You've been divorced before, so you know what it's like to be in a volatile marriage. Tom,
they might have been bumped into each other, walking around, just kind of been yelling at each other.
Is there any chance, Tom, that Melania and Donald are married in, say, 5 years?
Just having to think about those two disgusting people in my head. Yeah, there's a chance.
A chance. When was the last time you talked to Roseanne?
Oh, geez. It's been a long... Maybe at her roast, when I did a roast, which
that was
the first
funny.
time I talked to her in 18 years.
That was funny. Yeah, that was a good roast. Well, Tom, listen, man. I always appreciate it when you come on our show. Thank you so much for taking some time. We talked about some serious issues, and then we switched it up, as Michael said. We talked about some different issues.
Talking to Michael, too. I mean, this guy there's so many people trolling him.
Oh, I know.
Sometimes I get involved with them, and they're idiots. The worst people. Yeah.
Well, social media, man.
Trolls on Twitter. He's got groups of people that are like, we're gonna. And I kind of watch them going, yeah, let's get together on Saturday, and then we're gonna troll Michael Avenatti. We think we're so funny. It's just the worst people in the world. Then I'll get involved with them. I'm like, and they're just so.
What's
stupid.
The worst thing? Okay, we only got about a minute here, but Tom, what is the worst thing that somebody said to you, like on social media, that you can say on the radio?
I don't even care. I couldn't care less because they repeat the same things. They're so stupid. They repeat the same. Like I can't even imagine. Last week when we had the Nancy Pelosi, the small call where we're kind of game planning, the veterans, the guy that's head of our veterans group, said that the Vets 4, the number 4 Trump org, has a server in Macedonia, and they get in, when a veteran dies, they take their identity, and then they start registering them to vote, and they're connected to the Veterans Administration. That's awesome. That's awful. I care about stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like and by the way, they're paid by the Trump org.
Yeah.
This group out of Macedonia. That's bad. The Twitter stuff, that doesn't bother me.
No, I hear you. Tom, thank you so much for your time. We always appreciate it. And when you come back to Vegas, we would love to have you in studio one of these days. Really appreciate it, my man. Big fan of your work. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Take care, buddy.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Tom.
The actor, comedian, Tom Arnold. I was getting depressed, Michael. The first 15 minutes of that interview, I was getting very sad and depressed. I needed the funny Tom Arnold to come out a little bit there. We got a little bit of that. Tom was
so you got the Kevin Spacey picture story,
Right.
Yeah, that was that.
And Tom Cruise does like women a lot.
Well, I asked
Jamie Lee Curtis looks good naked.
I asked Jay Moore that question too.
By the way, let me just say this about the Kevin Spacey situation, and I don't know the history of Kevin Spacey or what other instances are out there. Let me be really clear about this, but I will say this: the case that he was being prosecuted in Massachusetts, Massachusetts, relating to the alleged incident, I believe at the waiter at the bar.
Correct.
That whole thing fell apart because.
It did.
Yeah, because the waiter at the bar basically doctored his cell phone and had erased various text messages and other things, and the prosecution had to throw the case out because it looked like it was bogus. And and he was raked over the coals in connection with that case, and he wasn't exonerated, but they did not prosecute him because of some conduct of the accuser.
In another case, one of his accusers died.
All right, well, we got to continue this conversation on the other side of the break. We got to take a quick break. Michael Avenatti going to be sticking around for hour number 3. We'll be back right after this.